Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us again. My name is Matt Wiseman. I am a business leadership coach with Focal Point. I am joined by my partners, Gina Tabasso of Barracuda B2B Marketing and Rich Bello of Schooley Mitchell, and we are the Manufacturers Efficiency Group. Our subject today is exit planning and the importance of having a solid exit plan. So we will jump right in. So a bit of a cautionary tale that I want to relay. This is based on actual events. The names, of course, have been changed to protect the innocent, as they say. But this is about a company that business owner Todd acquired many decades ago. Actually, he took out a business loan and bought a business and got off to a really good start. He did quite well. The business, continued to grow under his ownership, and he was able to pay back his business loan well in advance of when it was due. As the years went on, and Todd's three children came of age, they started to work at the business. They were basically working on the production floor, and kind of did primarily things in the back in production as opposed to the front office. Along the way, the kids grew older, and two of them decided to move on to other careers outside of the business. But one, who we'll call William, he stayed in and did start to do some front office work, which we'll get into in a minute. But along the way, out of the blue, a company knocked on the door and they made Todd an offer for the business. They were a foreign company looking to break into the U.S. market, and saw his business as a good opportunity to do so. Now, Todd, his interests were in keeping the business, keeping it within the family, and he declined the offer. So time passes. William now has an executive role, or at least an executive title in the business, but no actual executive responsibilities. In other words, he's not learning how to run the business from his father. Um, Eventually, Todd does decide to prepare for his exit from the day to day, exit from the business. And his thought all along has been to turn the business over to William. Problem is, he never actually communicated that to William. He never told William that that was his plan. Again, this is a true story. So Todd, kind of moves out of the day to day. He begins golfing, and is not really checking in all that much. Occasionally checks in to look at the books, so to speak. And William is at the helm. Um, and of course, as you might suspect, because William never really had the training, was not being groomed properly to run the business starts to go sideways, and um, it does in fact fail. The business has to be liquidated. The value of the assets is about equal to what the liabilities of the business. So essentially, it's a wash. The family gets nothing for the business. Now, this is at this point decades in to the ownership, to the ownership of the business. So how did this happen? Which we'll get into in a second. Now, there is a silver lining here, which is that, fortunately for Todd, he had been putting other money away. He still was able to retire quite comfortably, even though he was no longer getting an income from the business. And William, though he did have to take on lesser roles at working for someone else because he didn't actually have that executive level experience, so he had to take on lesser roles because he didn't really have the skill set needed. He did eventually, you know, um, rise and do quite well for himself. So uh, it was all well in the end, but still there was significant value that the company, that the bid family didn't was not able to take away from the business. So um, what ultimately. Um, What went wrong? Um, the owner, A, didn't know what his business was actually worth. When that company showed up and knocked on the door, what they offered him was quite substantial. And hindsight being 2020, it was a remarkable offer. Had he known what his business was worth, he would have more than likely said, "Yeah, I'll take that." On top of that, he didn't actually have a plan. He had no plan. I mean, in his mind, he had a plan. He was going to turn it over to his son, but he never really thought it through in detail. He never documented it. So that, in combination with not knowing what the business was worth, meant he didn't know what he would actually do when he did exit. Had he had a plan, and seeing that dollar figure he was offered, he would have not only taken it, he would have known exactly what he was going to do next. No one else knew what his quote unquote plan was. He didn't communicate it to William, obviously, and it's reasonable to assume he did not communicate it to any other family members, didn't communicate it to his key employees, let alone the business at large. So nobody knew what his plan was. The business was largely dependent on Todd being there all the time, and because he was kind of running everything, and again, never delegated to William, never groomed William to take on the business. Um, and ultimately, he outright failed to prepare the business for what would happen once he was no longer involved. So we're going to talk about, I will be discussing all of the things you do as a business owner can do to avoid this situation. So just a few quick, sobering statistics regarding business exit. So 80% of businesses, it's estimated that 80% of businesses never actually sell. And meanwhile, most business owners have a huge chunk of their net worth tied to their business. Now, again, for Todd, it was okay. He was putting away other money and was able to still retire comfortably. But just think about those two statistics together and the massive amount of economic value that is being essentially thrown away because of these businesses not selling and these owners not being able to take the value out that they're relying on. So again, I will be talking about how you avoid becoming one of these kind of negative statistics. So, there's three components of a successful exit plan. There's the personal plan, you know, talking about or documenting, I should say, what you're actually going to do once you exit your business. Tied to that, hence the link between the two shown on this slide, is the financials associated with funding that plan. How much money are you going to need to fund the things you want to do post exit? And then finally, the third piece is the actual plan for the business itself. And we'll get into some details about these three components and the importance of them. But one thing I do want to emphasize here, the word exit is very loosely defined when it comes to a business. It is not. It doesn't have to be just you hand over the keys, you walk out the door, never to return. It can be that you transition it to the next generation. It can be that you do sell it to a third party, a competitor, a private equity firm. There's such a thing as two exits from a business. So the first exit being you remove yourself from the day-to-day operation. You're taking some funds out of the business. And someone else is handling the day to day, and then you exit a second time when you actually sell it or fully transition it. So exit can be whatever, however you define it, whatever you view as your ideal exit scenario. That's your exit. So the personal plan and the financial needs. Again, kind of as I've already hinted, or hit on. Personal plan is very detailed and it does need to be documented. Um, I've got this kind of funny photo here or image. A plan is not moving south to a condo and playing golf. That's not a plan. Why? Because as a business owner, more than likely you are working 50, 60, 70 or more hours a week, on in your business. And all of a sudden, either in a slow transition or suddenly you're going to find yourself with that many hours a week with nothing to do. I have talked to business owners. I have heard stories about business owners who have, sold their business and are miserable. And it's because they did not have a plan. They suddenly found themselves with a ton of free time and they did not know what they were going to do with it. You need to really think through your plan. You will need to account for those hours that you're now going to find yourself with once you do exit. And you need to write it down. And then you need to share it with those who need to know, family, possibly your key employees, your team of advisors that we're going to talk about shortly. They should be aware of what you plan to do. It's very important. Once this plan is determined and it is documented, then you're going to want to engage a financial planner who can take a look at this and say, okay, we can put some conservative numbers to this and find out what kind of numbers you're going to need to get or to have per year to do what you want to do. Um, and that is going to inform how much you need to get when you exit the business. It's going to inform the value you need to take away from the business when you sell it or when you transition it. So then, of course, we get to the business plan, which has a number of key components that are required. So, it's evaluation of the business. What is the business? What would the business be worth on the open market? Now, I want to be clear. This is not what the owner thinks the business is worth. The majority of owners think their business is worth far more than it actually is. Evaluation is, generated by a professional who is, educated in how a business valuation is done. That's the number we're talking about. You then want to have, a management team who is ready to run the business without you, as we talked about, as I presented, when it came to Todd, he was basically doing everything, or at least had a hand in every piece of the business. That's not a business that is going to run once the owner exits. You need to have your management team established, have them be able to run the business effectively and efficiently without you. A personal team of advisors. So we'll get into who those are, but you're going to want people who are outside of the business that you can rely on and who are aware of your plans, that can give you guidance relative to their areas of expertise. You're going to understand what you're going to want to know what your timeline is. Ideally, when it comes to business, exit planning to be clear, it is a process. It is not an event. It is not, you go stick a for sale sign out front, and wait for somebody to make an offer. It's a process if you really want to prepare your business properly to get the most value for the business. So ideally, we want to start 3 years out at a minimum. 5 years is better. Longer, better still. It's never too early to start. So knowing what your timeline is for when you actually want to exit the business, and then establishing some metrics that you'll be able to track along the way as you move through the process, that you can measure your progress. How are you moving forward towards reaching your plan, towards getting to the point where you can in fact exit, and meet your needs and your desires. Um, Again, this is a detailed, documented plan. It's a living document like the personal plan. It's going to evolve over the course of the process that you go through preparing your business, and it is something that should be shared, again, with your key employees, your team of advisors, your family member, etc. They should be aware of the business plan and the personal plan. So I just want to point out, that we do basically put buyers, business buyers, into three buckets. There is the strategic buyer, and I've kind of ranked them here in order of preference. There's the strategic buyer that sees, if you've properly prepared your business for a sale, or for a transition, they're going to recognize that. A strategic buyer is going to recognize that when they're doing their due diligence. they're going to see the strength of your business, and they're going to be willing to pay a premium for your business above fair market value. Why? Because they see your business as a potential, as adding value to a business they already own, or they see it as, if it's the first business they're acquiring, they see it as something that is going to operate effectively and efficiently while they become acquainted with the business. Or if it's an investor, a private equity firm, they're going to see this as being a real value add to their portfolio. Next would be the entrepreneurial buyer, who, they see that there's still some room for improvement within a business. They would be looking to make an investment and then potentially flip the business, if you will, just similar to, flipping homes, where you go in, they make some improvements, and then they turn around and sell it for a profit a few years later. An entrepreneurial buyer may be considering the same approach with your business, and they will pay typically, fair market value. And then last and least desirable is the opportunistic buyer. They're going to see that you are in a position of weakness. If you haven't properly prepared, they may realize that you're in a must sell situation. Something has happened where you have to unload the business quickly, and they're going to, give you the fire sale offer. And they will realize that you may be in a position to not be able to say no. So, if you think about it, what type of buyer do you want to attract? Yeah, it's going to be the strategic buyer. So it requires effort to prepare a business to drive that sort of attention. I mentioned the exit team. I won't say it's a cast of thousands, but it is a team you are going to have to assemble, each with their own area of expertise. Um, you know, People, legal experts who have dealt with business transactions before, financial planners, accountants, etc. An exit advisor or a coach, like myself. There's going to be certain steps of the process where each one of these individuals are going to bring in expertise that are going to be critical to your success. And uh, are you going to spend money, having each one of these people on your team? Yes, you are. However, again, with a well, a team of solid advisors, and the execution of a solid exit preparation process, you're going to earn back many times over what you would pay, what you will invest in each one of these experts. So, I've seen business owners try to avoid spending any money whatsoever with outside advisors, and they kind of get what they paid for. It is well worth the investment, to engage with people in the various areas you're going to need to in order to really have a successful exit. So your actions, if you haven't done it already, are to think about your exit. Again, it's never too early. Even if it's 10 years out or more. And we'll get into why it's beneficial to start doing it, sooner rather than later. Start thinking about it. Start putting some things down on paper. Start, interviewing candidates for your exit team, your group of advisors. Ask around. Ask other business owners if they have people that they rely on, and get referrals. That's, obviously the best way. But definitely have an interview with them. Even if a fellow business owner thinks they're great and works well with them, personality just might not, their personality might not be a good fit for you. So, really do some interviewing and find somebody who's got the right skill set and is a good fit. And then once you've got some of these things documented and put together, present it to, again, your key stakeholders, your exit team, your family. Make them aware of the plan, and then, this is a cycle. It will evolve as you move through the process. So kind of be continually doing these things, along the way to get the best result. So, again, I just want to emphasize, exiting a business is a process. It is not an event. It takes time to do it correctly and prepare properly. You want to plan. really plan, really think through both personally and professionally what you want to do with your exit, and figure out what it's going to cost to what you will need post exit to fund whatever it is you want to do in the next phase of your life. Um, Build that team of trusted advisors, and consider the potential buyers you would consider, you know, offering up to your business, or offering your business to, right? So even, if it's transitioning to family, that's great. The process really is not any different. You should still have your team of advisors. You should still think through what you want to do, post exit. All the steps are the same, even if you intend to keep the business within the family. But if you don't, if you plan to sell it, think about yes, you want strategic buyers, sure, but now think of specific potential strategic buyers that you would want to engage. Don't say anything yet, right? There's steps, steps in that as well that you want to take, proper steps, but start generating a list of potential buyers you would want to eventually reach out to engage with and see if they have an interest in acquiring your business. So the one little bonus that I want to throw out there, I talked about the investment required, the team of individuals you're going to have to bring in, um, the effort you're going to put into, all this, documenting and if you've got to, build out your management team and train them, yes, you will make an investment to get yourself to a point where you are going to have a very successful exit. However, this is not something you're going to have to wait to get your return on investment in at the exit date, 3, 5, 10 years down the road. You will start to see benefits in your business, measurable financial benefits in your business today, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months after starting this process, because all of the things you're going to do to make your business attractive for sale or transition are the same things that one would do to improve the performance of their business. There is no difference. So you're going to start to reap the rewards well before you actually exit the business. You will see improved revenues, improved profits, and so on. A lot of business owners find themselves no longer needing to be as involved. They're working fewer hours while the business is improving performance. Just something to keep in mind. This is not something that's a return you have to wait for many years into the future. It can start, not long after you begin this process. So, again, my name is Matt Wiseman. I am a certified focal point business leadership coach. And my partners are Gina Tabasso of Barracuda B2B Marketing and Rich Bello of Schooling Mitchell. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about us or have questions about what was presented today, please scan the QR codes on the screen. We'd be happy to answer questions or set up a conversation with you and address whatever you may have.
Matt, I had one thing just listening to the presentation and thinking about the opportunity to converse with prospective buyers, especially the ones that are willing to make the investment and give really good value for your business. If you've done all the things that you mentioned, make the business as attractive to prospective buyers as possible. My question is, if you're a business owner and say you're still relatively new in the ownership of the business, or you've started it not too long ago, and it's thriving, it's doing very well, you're running it efficiently, you're doing a lot of the things that you just talked about that would make the business be not only effective and profitable now, but attractive for a prospective buyer. And you get an offer from one of those prospective buyers that see the value. And it's a really good offer, kind of like what you mentioned in the example earlier. What do you think, or how do you advise an owner in that instance to balance the offer that's on the table now with the opportunity that maybe the owner sees in continuing to grow the business over the years that they have. Say they're far removed from, or they're far away from what they would consider to be their retirement age. How do you kind of balance out that really good offer now versus what they think they could grow the business to if they continue to operate it?
Yeah, that's a great question, Rich. So that is following this process, right? If an owner is thinking about their exit, ideally they would be thinking about it from the start. I mean, there is the expression, don't get in unless you know how you're going to get out. Um, if they're in an absolute ideal world, if they're thinking about that from the start and they're running their business as you described in that way, they're doing things like having an annual valuation of their business. So I talked about going to that professional who knows how to, you know, come up with a number that reflects what the business could be worth on the open market. They're doing that every year. So they know, they're seeing as the business evolves, they're seeing how the number is shifting. So they know in their mind, at a minimum, that is at least the number they should get for the business. If they're doing all these other things, they're also understanding the other things I've talked about. They're also understanding what they would do should they sell the business. They have that next plan, right? So all along, they can entertain at any moment. They can entertain an offer, and they can know, what they would do, and they can sit there and look at that offer and go, okay, this is a good offer. It's more than the business is worth, right? Based on my last valuation, I know what I would do with this money because I've thought that through. And it really, they're in a total position of power. They can say, what, I think this business has got legs. I think if I keep at it, I can get even more for it in the future. There's a lot of podcasts out there. I think one's called Built to Sell, where you listen to owners it interviews owners who have sold businesses, and they when they properly prepare, they're always in that position where they can decide, yep, I've met my objectives. I know what my objectives are. I've met them. I'm ready to sell. Or nope, I'm gonna go another 6 months or whatever, right? So that's the real power of having this process nailed down and following it, is that they'll have the knowledge in their hand to make that decision. It's like, oh man, that's a great offer. I'm going to exit, or nope, I want to keep doing this. I'm enjoying what I do. I think there's more value, in the future. If I keep going, I'm going to decline the offer and stay on the path. Yeah.
Seems that personal plan is really the key point there in that instance. If they have the personal plan and they know, okay, if I get this amount, I'm able to do all these things that I'd like to do after selling, then that's kind of their guiding light.
Yeah.
This is the perfect segue for me to jump in. I wanted to say, I love how you started with the real world example, not just a bunch of facts and figures on a screen, but it's something that we could connect with and understand. And Rich, when you talked about the personal plan being so important and impactful, I have a real world example too. And this is the difference between me and most marketers. Like, because of my Lean Six Sigma background, I look at organizations holistically. Most marketers don't. All they care about is marketing. So I have a client who asked me to rebuild their website. And my question to them was, what is your 5-year plan? And they said, well, in 5 years, we want to retire and be done with the business. And I asked them, I said, do you have an M&A plan in place? Well, no, we've got 5 years. I said, do you realize that M&A usually takes 3 to 5 years to prepare for, to get your business ready to sell? I said, do you plan to sell? Do you plan to close the doors? Do you have a succession plan and have somebody you're grooming to take over? And they said, well, no, we don't want to just close the doors. We want to sell it. And I said, well, that is a very different marketing conversation if you want to sell it versus if you want to close it. Because I would not recommend you rebuild your website if you're closing the business in 5 years. That's a waste of your time and money. I said, but you want to show value, you want to show brand equity, you want to have data about your leads and your conversions, and how you show up against your competitors in the digital space. So that gives me a lot of information I need to move forward with you as my client. But then I introduce them to an M&A person, and also to a consultant who could help them with their overflow, because they didn't have the bandwidth to take on too many new clients. But I had experience with this myself just recently, and two business owners, they've owned this company for 20, 30 years, and they know they want to sell it, but they weren't doing anything to prepare for that sale. So what you had to say is so valuable. I think every business owner who feels they have a viable business that one day they might want to sell really has to think about everything you talked about today.
Yeah, really important. And again, it is not something that they will have to wait to reap the rewards of way out in the future. It will You'll benefit today. Their business will improve just by nature of doing the things that make a business attractive for sale, or make it uh, uh, able to transition smoothly to the next generation, or another family member, or an employee, employee buyout, that type of thing. Yeah, it's the value of it can't be overstated. So yeah, great question, great comments. And yeah, like you, Gina, I've got a dozen other stories very similar, or maybe not similar, but same type of they're exit related, and unfortunately, a lot of them are not so rosy. The outcome is not a positive one. So yes, much better to prepare, and reap the rewards of the effort. And a lot of times decades of effort that have been put into it. All right, so just again, as we always do, want to highlight our upcoming webinars. So in March, Rich will be talking about finding savings in your waste management expenses. In April, Gina will talk about applying Lean Six Sigma principles to your marketing efforts. And in May, I will talk about addressing the challenges in employee turnover. And with that, if there's nothing else from you, Rich, or Gina, then just want to thank everybody for joining us again. And we'll see you next month. Thank you.